Hi and welcome to LeadingME Wee Gems with Mags Bell. And today we're going to talk about failing forward, transforming mistakes into milestones. The Irish poet and writer James Joyce said, "Mistakes are the portals of discovery." I absolutely love that saying. Mistakes are the portals of discovery. And the reason I love it so much is we get so wrapped up in it being wrong and it didn't work right and it wasn't perfect and I really wanted to make this work and everybody's laughing at me and people didn't expect it and look, they were right and blah, blah, blah. And in actual fact, if we just see it as portals of discovery and we look at what happened way back, if we can even remember the mistakes we've made. But there's a few mistakes in our life we do remember. You know, we remember certain, what seemed like big mistakes at the time for us. And as we look back, we look and we see, and sometimes we go, but you know, it really wasn't that bad. Other times we look and we go, oh my God, I was so wrapped up in how bad that was, and yet look at where it got me to. And that's where Joyce was talking about the portals of discovery, because it's in making mistakes that we do fail forward. You know, we only fail back the way, right? We only fail back if we decide not to do anything else about it and we just accept that failure and then that's it. We won't even try again. J.R. Rowling, author of Harry Potter, as we all know, she says it beautifully, and that is, it is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well have not lived it. In which case, you have failed by default. I love that. Because if you decide that because you've failed, then you don't take anything more to do with that failure and you move on to other things and don't even try again with that supposed failure, that you're as well not bothering to live at all, because it's through these and looking and analysing them and thinking, whoa, what if I done this with it? What if I took that? That's what makes us fail forward rather than the failing back, which is the, I'm not going to do anything else, I look stupid, I feel daft. I've got other sessions that I've done on the inner critic. Go and look it up. If that's what is holding you back, go and look those up. Because when it comes to this failing forward, it's, I can accept what that failing is. So today, what I want to do is I want to look at, what does failing really mean? What makes us believe in failure rather than results? And also how can we galvanise those mistakes and make them into milestones? So those are the three areas that I'm going to look at today. The first one is, what does failing really mean? Well, it means lots of things to different people. Failure can be a tiny little thing, and then failure can be an enormous thing. But I want to quote Tony Robbins. His book, Unlimited Power, was something that helped me way, way back. I had a massive inner critic that I talk about in another podcast, in another video. Whenever I'm talking about the inner critic, I speak on the subject often, a model to help that. But the reason I have these is because I had a massive inner critic who basically I wasn't good enough. And every time that I went to do something, it had to be perfect in my eyes. Now, it doesn't matter whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent. That was just my journey. That was just where I was at the time. So failure was massive to me. So it drove me in one sense to win awards and be really great at what I was doing. But at the other side of that driving force, and I talk about the LeadingME ladder of leadership, and I'll come on to that in a bit. But in the terms of the Leading Me ladder of leadership, I was bigging it up because I was pushing myself and, get myself there and I can do a perfect job and this has got to be. But at the other side of that, I would have to, because we live in the law of the universe, which is polarity, one of the laws. I had to go from bigging it to belittling, and of course the belittling went to myself. So that's what I was doing. So I was searching for perfection, thinking that I was actually perfect at what I was doing as I was bigging it up. But when I didn't get what I was expecting, that became failure to me, and that then my inner critic would run riot, absolute riot with me. And I'm allowing that because remember, when we're talking about ladder of leadership, we're talking about the ego. And the ego is running me when I'm either bigging it or belittling. And the ladder of leadership, as I often say, goes side on. So if you look at the ladder of leadership, in the middle section is your body. That's leading me. That's you tapped in, easy flow, confidence reigns, real authentic confidence that just comes from knowing, love, kindness. Everything sits in that middle section of leading me, and it's me first. I have to be leading me, knowing me, before it actually becomes I can help anybody else. Okay, there's no point in me being broken and trying to help other people. It doesn't work. Okay, so this middle section of leading me, and then we move to one side, and that's bigging it up. So we go to bigging, and that means we're trying to judge and control situations, people, whatever. Now, as I say, the law of polarity means that I then have to go to belittling. And the belittling is really blame, victim. And I have a couple of tools that can help us to get back into that middle section. If I'm bigging it, I'll use the 3 keys to eliminate your shite. If I'm actually belittling it, I use the 4-hour release model. And I have taught that many, many times, the 4-hour release model. You'll see it around. If you go looking, you'll find it in videos and podcasts and various things that I've done over time. There's free webinars out there. If you suffer from that, it is very, very good, especially when you're thinking about what you've done, if you see it as a failure, and then how you deal with that. Normally it's that inner critic that's going nuts. So when it came to that, I gave myself depression by staying on that whole belittling part. When you're down that bottom end of victimhood, victim at its worst is actually depression. And it was an awful place to be. Never want to go back there. It was over 30 years since I was there. I've managed with tools to keep me away from that. And I can honestly say it was very, very difficult for me in those dark, dark days to concentrate on anything whatsoever. But there was one day I was sitting and I had the book Unlimited Power. I've got it here. It's such an old book. I mean, look at the colour. It's such an old book I've got. I've had it for years. I think the publishing date of it is something like 1986, right? This book has been around for a long time. Tony Robbins wrote it, and I remember having it around, and I picked the book up and I happened to turn to a page that had enormous impact in my life. That's when the universe God was helping me to find the answers for myself. And I don't even know why I picked the book up. I couldn't concentrate. And I knew it said unlimited power on it. And I thought, I'll have a go. I tried to read some of it. I found it really difficult. But there was a page fell open. And at that page, the most amazing thing was there. And I'm going to read this as Tony Robbins has it in the book. So just think about the state I was in, the state that you're in when we think of failure, right? And when we constantly think of failure. So I want to tell you about a man's life. That man failed in business at the age of 31. was defeated in a legislative race at the age of 32. Failed again in business at the age of 34. Overcame the death of his sweetheart at the age of 35. Had a nervous breakdown at the age of 36. Lost an election at the age of 38. Lost a congressional race at the age of 43. Lost a congressional race at the age of 46. Lost a congressional race at the age of 48. Lost a senatorial race at the age of 55. Failed in an effort to become vice president at the age of 56. Lost the senatorial race at the age of 58 and was elected President of the United States of America at the age of 60. Now that passage had such an impact on me, and I'm hoping if you're in that realm of failure, it had the same impact for you. It was such a massive impact that it actually made me start climbing out that hole. Coming from that one end of complete victimhood back to that middle ground of leadership. I didn't realise that's what it was at the time, but that's what was happening. And the reason it had such an impact was it got me thinking about what failure really was. And in the book, Robbins talks about they're just results. They're just results. That had a massive impact on how I viewed things, how my optical vision on what a mistake, what a failure was enormous. And I realised it was my behaviour, it was my optical illusion and the behaviour that went with that was creating my world. And through various things, including some CBT, etc., I managed to get back from that abyss and back to that, in that middle part of Leading Me, and started to love me again. Because when you're down that end, you hate yourself rather than even like yourself. So the passage was the one that got me, but his view on its own results was the thing that I've carried through the rest of my life. Because failure, mistakes, they drive our behaviour only by how we view them. So when Joyce says they're porters of discovery, of course they are. If I'm looking at it through a lens of optimism, if I'm looking at it through possibilities, if I'm looking at it through the positive. But if I'm looking at it from the negative side, it actually just makes life a whole lot worse. So, what makes us believe failure rather than results? Well, it's conditioning. It's back to conditioning again. I talk about this often. When we are brought into this world, we are conditioned from our parents, the people around us, our aunts or uncles, or the people who are caring for us, the churches we go to, the groups we're part of, the friendships we build, the schools we go to. All of that conditions us into believing certain things. It's just conditioning. We can also condition ourselves back out of it. So our doubts get in there because of what other people have said and what other people said. They're not necessarily doing this in a nasty, horrible way. A lot of the time it's coming from love and trying to protect us. Right? Don't do that, darling. It's not going to work. We'll do something better for you. Well, we have to make the mistakes. We have to see the failures. It's because we're cosseted by those, by our guardians, the people around us, people that won't allow us to make mistakes. And let's not blame them. We brought ourselves into this world to be part of the people that are around us, that people keep coming into us. So I'm not looking for us to go down in the ladder of leadership to blame and say, oh, it's because of them that I am the way I am. No. This is your journey. The reason you brought them in is for you to grow, for them to push your buttons, for them to condition you a certain way so you can find a new conditioning for yourself. Leading me is all about me. Taking responsibility for me. Being responsible for me. Because once I do that, and I'm in balance, I can then choose. I'm out the movie, remember. When I'm in balance, I'm out the movie. I'm in the leading me. I can see everything and I don't have to react to anything. If I'm in the movie, the ego's got me out playing and bigging it or belittling. And when it does that, I'm in deep trouble. Okay? And I put myself there. I stayed there way too long. And then I found my way back. So by finding my way back, we can use tools to get back. It's fine. It's easy if we decide that's what we want to do, but we need to decide that's what we want. So if you're stuck there and you're thinking, oh, well, what can I do about that? Then there's lots we can. How can we galvanise those mistakes and make them into the milestones that are there? Well, we can change our behaviour. We can change our thought process. Instead of, staying with the same thoughts that we have, what if we change those thoughts? What if we put on new optical specs and looked at life from a more positive, a more insightful, a more curious lens than a black and white, that's right, that's wrong, you're wrong, look at how you've done, oh my God, I'm wrong, look at what I've done, I've made mistakes. We can change that behaviour. We can change that optical view. And we can start looking at what if the possible? What if the curiosity of? What if we could do whatever we wanted with what looked like a mistake, a failure, which is just a result? Just wasn't the result I was looking for. Robbins was right. Tony Robbins was right. We look at things from failure point of view when we really should be looking at, okay, this is a result here. It wasn't the result I wanted. Those in research do this all the time. Okay, that wasn't the result I wanted. So I'll put that. But what have we learned from that? And now we'll try this. And we'll see if this works better. And once we do that, oh wow, that's why we get discoveries galore. Right? That's why Joyce says mistakes are the portals of discovery. Because we don't see scientists go, oh, failed, well, we can't do anything about that. What we do, I'll just go and read some books. They go, what can we learn from what we've just done and what else can we bring in to do? Well, why don't we, what if? Why don't we experiment in life and take our life as an experiment? It's just a result. What can I do with that result? What can I learn from it? And what will I change to make it better? Henry Ford also said, the only real mistake is the one from which we learn nothing. So for those of us who make mistakes and run away and hide and don't want to do it again, that's a mistake. Because we were put on this earth to make them so that we could make the amazing wonders in this world. Right? Mistakes are happening constantly in nature, but we go, oh wow, look at that. It developed from, being in the sea to walking on land. That plant has now developed into something else, and now it flowers and it fruits, whereas it only ever flowered before. Right? There's always changing happening. So let's look at life in a different way. Ignore what others are saying to you. It's more about being that my inner being, me and that inner being in that leading me sense. I know when I'm in the leading me center ground, I know everything. I really do. But if I don't stop and listen, I'll hear nothing and I'll know nothing. So it's not about what others say. by all means, take some counsel over what others say. But think to yourself, does that feel right for me? Does that sound right to me? Does that look right to me? And just feel into that and feel, is that right for me? And then that makes life so much easier, because it's their fears and doubts that they push upon us. And that's the conditioning. And may I add, you do it too. So don't try and make it out it's all them. We do it too. If we have fears and doubts, we push it on to other people. No, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Well, yeah, you could, but if you look at that and that could be hell, right? It's the fears and the doubts that we prey on and that we take and we go, oh my God, I can't do that because I might make a mistake, right? I might fail at that. Well, we can change that behaviour. We can look at life differently. We can look at failing forward instead of failing backwards. We can look at galvanising those mistakes and making them into the milestones that show us, wow, I remember that mistake. That was amazing because it brought me to that. Then I remembered that mistake and it brought me to that. And now as I'm moving through life, isn't life much better, much easier? And thanking mistakes, many times we don't appreciate the mistakes. There's many times I look back and I see mistakes that I've made or things that I've failed at, and I look and it's how I used to see them. But I'll look at the results that I wasn't expecting. I look at the results that I didn't want, and I go, oh my God, if that hadn't happened, then that wouldn't have happened and I wouldn't be here doing this. That's what makes life exciting. So it's the failures and the mistakes in life that make things exciting and good and new and wonderful and developing. So I'll leave you with a quote from me today, and that is, achieving is not about avoiding mistakes or failures. It's about making them, learning from them, and building on the new found steady foundations. That's what it's about, those results. So if you've enjoyed this and you enjoy what you hear, then subscribe, hit the buttons, ring the bells, do what you need to do to make sure that you get this notification every time that I put something up. I'm usually doing something at least once a month, if not more. Then, just make sure that you get these in your inboxes, you get these on a notification that helps you grow and helps you do what you're here to do. As far as any questions you've got or you want me to tackle something in particular, happy to do that. You can write to me. You'll find all sorts of information in the description boxes below. So feel free to send messages, comment, write, DM me, wherever you find me, and whatever you want me to do. If it's within my realms of being able to do, I'll happily tackle situations for you. It's so much better when you share, because for the one person that's sharing about their situation, I'll guarantee there is many more who are in the same boat. So I look forward to hearing from you and also seeing you soon. You take good care. Stay true, stay you, and keep bringing out your brilliance. Bye for now.